Hey, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows. Typically, we do feature a beer of the week. However, this week we have a really great guest as we are going back to our creator spotlights, where we will be joined by Jed Hartland, the creator of Starr Slam, which is going to be an excellent wrestling meets sci-fi comic book, and we are going to dive into it in just a moment. But first things first, as always, Hops Geek News, any podcasting platform, any social media platform, please by all means go ahead. Support that, like, subscribe, share, all of that good stuff. That's how the podcast grows. And then patreon.com/hopsgeeknews if you want to hang out, join us. We do monthly movie nights. Everything goes right back into the podcast. And Lauren will be at New York City Comic Con this week. That's where you can find her. So Lauren, I'm not drinking. You're not drinking. I got water, H2O. That's my stuff. Like you said, we don't always do it here, but we would like to introduce our guest. Jump right into it. Jed, thank you so much for taking time out of, I know it's a little bit later over there, so we really appreciate you coming on. Introduce yourself and kind of give us your geek origin story.
Oh, thanks for having us on, guys. My name's Gerard Hartland, and I am the writer of a new comic coming out called Starr Slam that's going to be launching on Kickstarter very soon.
Yes, it is. Now, every comic book, we always go back to superheroes. There's always an origin story. Everybody kind of gets bit by the radioactive spider, or what happens. Hopefully nobody's parents were harmed in the creation of your comic book origin, but how did you get into comic books? What drew you to writing in the comic book space?
I think at a really early age, to be fair. I mean, the first film I saw at the cinema was Superman 4.
Yeah.
Which isn't the greatest of films in hindsight, but like for a 6-year-old going to see that kind of just blew me away, and then ever since that, really, that I kind of got the bug. And then soon after that there was the Batman 89, and I just remember that being everywhere, that logo, the toys. I just wanted everything to do with that film. And and then throughout the 90s, really, I started going to the cinema more and more with my dad, and just seeing everything we possibly could, really. And at the same time, I just was drawn to comics, to storytelling. I was always into the Marvel stories. I was a huge Superman fan when I was a kid. It just kind of progressed from there, really, to going throughout the 90s, seeing film after film, reading, etc. And then, like, I went to university and got into writing for film and TV. And then, just kind of went from there, really, with writing scripts and then into comic book scripts.
I love that. Go ahead, Lauren.
Well, I was going to actually talk about wrestling, so I'll let you actually take it, since you're more into wrestling, because I was going to ask your wrestling origin story, because obviously that's very relevant to this comic.
It is, yes. Well, like Lauren said, wrestling plays a big piece into this. Are you a big wrestling fan? What kind of drew you into this wrestling kind of idea?
I have been, again, since I was a kid, really. I think like in the late 80s, 90s, I mean, wrestlers were more or less, they looked like superheroes. I think some of them did, to be fair. And you look to like the physique of someone like the Ultimate Warrior or Hogan, and all of my friends were into it. We would watch the pay-per-views on VHS and then be like, jumping across the sofas in living rooms and everything, even though they told us not to. Don't try this at home. It's just like, we're not listening to that.
Of course we're not. Wink.
I always loved it as a kid, and then I kind of like drifted out of it a bit, and then I just really remember being at school and a few of my friends talking about the likes of Stone Cold and The Rock, and it's like, wait, like, is wrestling like kind of good again and everything? And then I just started watching it as a result of that, and I kind of came in just at a point where like the corporate ministry and everything.
Oh yeah, man.
WWE,
oh gosh, when Austin went corporate and The Rock was I grew up. I ate they had me in the palm of their hands during the Attitude Era. I was there every Monday night. The signs, the crowds were just absolute mayhem. We had The Rock versus Austin 3 different times. The backdrops of Stone Cold going and beating McMahon up with the bedpan, and just the chaos that was wrestling back then. Oh, I'm so with you on that.
Yeah, it was just it was like wild, like the crowds were and everything. And I think that is what drew me in as well. It was just like, it was almost like a saloon or something, the way
Yeah.
that like the crowds were there and everything. And it was um I remember my dad kind of coming in from work late at night when I was watching it, and he was like, what on earth are you watching? And like I was explaining it to him, and gradually he was getting sucked into it and everything as well, because he just found some of the characters just so funny. Like he really got a kick out of like Kurt Angle and Chris
Oh God,
Jericho,
yes.
and so it just felt like it ticked all the boxes for us. And yeah, it just kind of from there, really, I've always stayed in touch with it ever since. And then when I was starting to write originally like screenplays, I just felt like that at the time there hadn't been any like wrestling stories. You kind of had those Hulk Hogan films in the 90s, really. And it just felt like there were, the characters could be, there was some real like larger than life characters you could kind of draw out from there. And yeah, that was where this whole idea spawned from, really.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you're right. They're like larger than life. I'm like you. I kind of fell out, except for I felt probably in like the 2010s, and just recently came back over the last few years where like the bloodline got big. I'm a
Yeah.
massive, I walk around the house making my kids, call me the tribal chief. Putting it up there, make them acknowledge me. Their favorite song right now is Jay
I need
Uso's
to do
entry song. Like,
that.
I let them know, and my son's like really into it. My daughter, I'll catch her singing Jay Uso's song. It's like she's running around like, me Us day one ish, even though she doesn't know all the words. She's 6, so it's just it is fun again, and it's something that's always been
Yeah.
fun. So why don't we kind of dive into this and give us like your quick pitch of what this story really is?
Yeah. So I guess I'd call it a mix of something like Galaxy Quest meets Cowboys and Aliens, really. So it's a group of veteran wrestlers. They were massive stars back in the 80s. Fallen on hard times, don't get on with each other, and anyhow they're traveling cross country to their next gig, and all of a sudden an alien ship just smashes into the desert next to them, and they are immediately like drawn into this kind of intergalactic like battle, really. And it's them basically facing off against this alien threat, and trying to save the earth, but they've got quite a lot of hang-ups from their time together. So yeah, it's a fun adventure with all these like kind of larger than life characters.
Now, I know you have it slated on Kickstarter. It says this will be, 5 issues total. Do you
Mhm.
see if this does well? Do you see it going further, or is
I
this like your story beginning, middle, and end, and that's good?
I do have an idea of where it can go for a second volume, and I've got that quite clear now in my head. And then I have an idea as well for where it could go for a third volume as well. I think it's great because we've got like 9 kind of core characters, but I do feel that in the wrestling world and everything, there's always the opportunity to branch out. There's just so many kind of different character and archetypes and everything you can use. So yeah, I've got an idea of where I'd like to take it if I get the opportunity and the Kickstarter is successful and everything. Yeah, definitely.
Are you gonna always kind of follow like different wrestlers kind of every time, or like did you specifically think of like the inspiration for wrestlers in this one? Was it more of, since it takes place in the 80s, did you kind of think of those Ultimate Warriors, those Hulk Hogan's, those Andre the Giants for this kind of arc?
Yeah. So definitely for this, it was always kind of that. So one of the characters is a kind of Hulk Hogan-ish, Lex Luger kind of figure, and then the other ones definitely has a feeling of like Sting and Ultimate Warrior kind of figure. And I've got an idea of where those characters could go over a series of stories, really. I think there's a lot of baggage with them and everything to kind of tell and stuff. And yeah, like bringing in other ones as well as we go along.
Yeah, that's one thing like wrestlers, a lot of people don't realize like their bodies are actually hurting and stuff. So I can only imagine like kind of things behind the scenes that plays into that. And now they're going to be body slamming aliens. And you mentioned Cowboys versus
100%.
Aliens. Was that like
Yeah.
like, are you talking about the movie? Like, is that a big inspiration? Is that one of your like go-to movies?
Bizarrely, like, yeah, I mean, I'd actually never heard of the comic book before the movie was announced, and I was like, oh my God, that's like the coolest pitch ever.
I
Like,
fully agree. I even
and
enjoyed the movie. It was
yeah,
wild.
it's a really strange one because like it didn't do that great, but it's a beautiful movie to watch. I think, like, I really think it's really well made. But I guess it's just that dynamic of kind of aliens versus something very unlikely. So yeah, there's just like a really kind of interesting dynamic and going on there. And so yeah, that's I guess one I always go to, but definitely something like Galaxy Quest comes into this. The idea of like the fallen idols trying to make amends, and then maybe things like the movie Red, the comic book Red.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. I understand. But yeah.
yeah, like the Aging Assassins, that kind of thing as well. That kind of played on my mind, I guess, when I was writing this. Yeah, things like that.
Well, I think as we get older, we tend to relate more to the aging dynamic of things. So it's fun to go viewing things as a child and looking at the wrestling world and then being their age and then starting to get, older than some of the current relevant wrestlers. So that's always a fun way to
Yeah,
look at it differently. And I think it helps us with our own mortality, getting to view it in a different light and getting to relate to
yeah,
these characters. So I think that's a fun
yeah,
perspective.
yeah, and,
Um,
and it's just a crazy like lifestyle as well. I kind of feel like with the wrestling world, the fact that they kind of go and do a show and then they'll like drive so
Yeah, they're
many
like
hundred
independent
miles in the
contractors, which
night.
is crazy to me. It's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they've got to like still work out in the mornings, probably carrying injuries and everything. It's just I don't know how the bodies kind of do it. To be honest, it just
well, I think
fascinates me.
yeah, they start to fall apart, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I fully agree. Now, the art in process like that. Talk us through a little bit about finding your creative team. What went into that? How did you get hooked up with ASAP Imagination?
So like I say, I'd done the story originally as a movie script, and I always kind of got good feedback to it, but it was like this will cost too much money. Like realistically, like this is not going to get made. Like as a newbie writer, and then I put it away for a while. Really, I mean, I did it. I did the original script about like 8 years ago. And then through COVID, I really started getting into reading like comics and graphic novels more because I just had my first boy, and so I was staying up late with him, and I was trying to like carry on reading, but trying to read novels when you've got a child and everything is just impossible. Um, and so yeah, I was thinking like maybe I should have a crack at writing a comic book, and that one really stood out as like maybe I should take one of my scripts and try and do that because of the characters and the colors and everything. It just made sense, and yeah, I pinged it out to a few different publishers and stuff, and then ASAP Imagination kind of got back to me almost straight away, really, and I'd sent a sample to Laurie there, and she just said she wanted to kind of keep on reading it, and yeah, we kind of went from there with it, and they found me an awesome artist in Witsi Trujano, and yeah, just helped me bring it to life. Really, it's just been an awesome like learning curve for us, and just such a great collaborative team to work with. To be honest, they
Mhm.
make me feel really at ease. Being this is like my first project, Kickstarter, etc. It's been great working with them. To be fair.
That's awesome. And for anybody who's listening to us that is new to the game, if you go back, we did interview Hades from ASAP Imagination. And we've also actually interviewed Lori, who has a great comic. Was it Pale the Writer? It was like a
Oh
zombie cowboy
yeah,
kind of story.
she's
So,
got that, and
and hot sauce.
she's got a lot actually. Lori's doing
Yeah,
a lot of great
she's
stuff.
got quite a collection now.
So yeah, they do really great things over there, and they're really I've worked with them as far as like comic book wise and stuff like that, and so they really help you find the right one for you, and they're great, and so it's awesome,
Mm.
especially for like your first one. So when can people I know you're retooling some of the Kickstarter, rewards and things. When can people expect to start to be able to get involved in the Kickstarter? Tell us a little about when. that whole process?
Yeah, so the teaser page now is live on Kickstarter, so you can kind of follow it from there. And we're aiming to kind of go live right at the very end of October with it. So yeah, just a few finer details now I'm like kind of sorting out for it. But yeah, just kind of excited to launch it really at this point.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'll be promoting extensively, I guess, then day in, day out for it.
It can be kind of daunting too, like creating your first Kickstarter, talking about it. It can, of course, it's always daunting, but you took that step, getting to create something that is yours, that you've had. You said you first kind of thought of this idea 8 years ago, which is really cool. That it's something that's stuck with you. Now it's bringing it to life. Like, what's that feeling like for you, finally seeing this idea coming to life?
I mean, it's really fulfilling. It's really it feels a bit like life kind of imitating art in a way, because the characters in this story are all about kind of, they just have fallen by the wayside, and they're getting another chance to kind of like find their purpose and everything. And that was kind of what happened with this script, really. It was, I'd kind of put it to bed for a long time, really, and then it's kind of getting a second chance now, in a different form and everything. And yeah, it's just really cool to kind of bring it to life, and like some of the ideas we've got for like rewards and everything. It's awesome. So yeah, I'm kind of chuffed to bits, to be honest, to get a second kind of crack at it with it.
Yeah, that's right. Lauren, do you have anything you would like to add? I do have one final question, but I wanted to make sure you got your
I was gonna
time.
say, and I'm sure it won't be relevant to me at all. I did not grow up a wrestling fan, but I am a comic book fan. And you're actually not the first wrestling comic we've talked about. And the last one, remember the WrestleTopia one, was probably one of the first comic reviews we did like 4 years ago. And I genuinely really enjoyed it. So even if you're not a wrestling fan, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy this comic. I really don't. I don't have any more questions. However, the link to the Kickstarter will be in the bio, because Matt's going to put it in there when he uploads everything, and so that's where you can find it. All right, go ahead, Matt. You can.
Yes,
Wrap
I
up
gotta
your last
know.
bit of wrestling stuff.
I do have one hard hitting question here. As I gotta know, man, you're building a faction. You're gonna enter. And I got who are you building your faction with out of wrestlers? You got 3 or 4 guys that you're creating your version of the NWO or Bloodline. Who are you going with?
From WWE or
Any wrestling? It could be any. Like we're big wrestling. You got the Tokyo Dome, man. You got AEW. You've got WWE. There's so many out there. WCW back in the day. Like any wrestler throughout time.
I'm gonna go modern day. I'd probably go Will Ospreay.
Oh yeah,
just because he's British, and that man just defies gravity in ways
he really
that I
does.
don't understand. So yeah, I go with him. You have to put Taker in there, just for this whole supernatural kind of side of things. That's got to go in there. You got to have someone come down from the ceiling, so it's got to have to be Sting.
Yes, he also gives you that supernatural a little bit too. Like he would always just be there,
Yeah, I to be honest, Sting, I think it might be my coolest in that NWO phase. I just thought that was awesome when he used to drop down and just kind of cause havoc with them. And then I kind of feel like I've got to throw Austin in there. I don't know how these characters would all get on together, but
that's the beauty of it. It's your own. You can figure the details out later.
I'd have to have him in there, because I feel like he was the one that got me back in, like 98, 99. I just found him so awesome to watch and so much fun. And then you've got to have a comedy character in there, I guess, as well. So someone who's just going to annoy everyone else. But I feel just because I can sense my dad talking in my ear, I have to put Kurt Angle in there, because my dad would be in hysterics watching Kurt Angle back in the day. So yeah, I have to put him in there just for him.
I mean, Kurt Angle even used to get, Austin to break at times, and you'd see Kurt Angle driving out like Lauren. So Stone Cold his thing was beer. Like that's his thing.
Yeah.
Smash beers.
Well, that I know. I've had his beer. I've been to the brewery.
That's true.
Oh, cool.
What Kurt Angle would do when they were feuding is he would drive the milk truck out. He'd smash bottles of milk. He'd spray down. It was just because he was an Olympic wrestler.
Oh, that is actually pretty
in
funny.
Atlanta. He wrestled with a broken freaking neck. So That's just that perfect. Peak Kurt Angle in like 2001 was it doesn't get much more comedic and great and better than what he did. And they played off each other well. So I really like that. And as we do wrap up here, why don't you go ahead and let people know where they can find you, where they can follow all of the good updates that you're going to have coming out with this excellent comic, Starr Slam.
Sure. So I'm on X at Hartland G, and then I'm also on Insta and also Threads at gheart316. So please, follow us. Just looking to build my community on there, and I'll be sharing content and clips and videos and all of that stuff over the coming weeks. So feel free to join us.
And that's the bottom line, because gheart
Nice,
316 said so. Thank you so much for joining us. I know, again, we're going to let this man get some rest. But thank you seriously again, folks. Be on the lookout for this. If you love wrestling, obviously, as I do, if you love, aliens, sci-fi action, what is going to get better than checking out Aliens meets wrestling meets some of your favorite wrestlers of all time? So be on the lookout for this. Gheart 316. That's going to, if that doesn't stick with you for the rest of your life, man, we got to get you all checked for dementia, because I know I'm rent free right in my head. Follow. And for everybody else, make sure you go ahead and follow us on Hops Geek News as well, as we're going to be pushing updates. And once everything goes live, look forward to kind of getting to talk with you again and following the 5-issue arc you got coming with these guys.
Oh, thanks for having us on, guys.
Absolutely. We will see you guys next time. Cheers.